Hello, everybody. Hi, this is Erin Patrice. I just want to thank everyone for coming in today and joining us as we discuss some things here with some educators that I have here with me live. Welcome to the Breaking Bread Village. We're just going to have a conversation today. I did put out everyone's bios and all their beautiful contributions they've given to the educational process, which I just admire and they inspire me. So that's why I asked them to come in here today. I'm going to bring our guests on so we can just get to the conversation. It is time. Let's see. We have Dr. Gina Wilson with us here today.
Hello.
Hello. Sister Hannah L. Jana. And Dr. Carmen. How are you guys?
Great.
We're good. How are you? Happy to be here.
I am so happy to have you guys here today so we can have this conversation. We just have some things that we want to just tackle right now because we have a pandemic going on, which it just sounds so strange to say it, but I also like saying it because I use that for everything when things aren't going right to say it's a pandemic. So that's my excuse. So I don't have to do that right now. That's kind of just where I am right now. I want to talk to our parents, to our teachers, to our children right now, because I've really been kind of curious on how we help our children right now. As adults, it's been hard, it's been stressful, we will navigate through it. But our babies sometimes don't really have a say in a lot, and they don't have a voice sometimes. And some of them are in homes where this has been difficult with their parents and their, family, extended family all day. So I just really want to have that conversation. So again, I just want to thank everybody for coming on today, the Breaking Bread Village, where we come together in a collective effort to grow the village and empower the mind by having the conversation. And that's what we're going to do today. So I just want to start off by asking you guys, and whoever wants to go first, we can go first, or however you guys want to do it. But I just want to know, first of all, do you guys kind of prefer traditional or non-traditional in regards to the learning process? That's kind of where I want to start off. Anybody can go. As far as like learning, do you prefer traditional or kind of non-traditional? Hannah, I can't hear you. I heard you. Let's see earlier. Let's see.
I'll just start while we're working on that. So for me, I've always been a proponent that whatever works for the family. So not saying that one is better than the other. I think families need to do what's best for families. And thankfully, in our current, even prior to the pandemic, we had lots of options for families, lots of opportunities for them to take part in and to do what is best for them, or for the, not for the family as a whole, but also maybe for individual children, because lots of times, because our children aren't the same, you may have a child that stays at home for a virtual learning or a homeschooling opportunity, and another one who then seeks out a traditional public school setting, and another who's at a private school, and another who's at a charter school. So I love lots of options for families because families and children are different, and they deserve to be educated in the way that they feel most comfortable and where they can self-actualize the best.
Awesome. Do we agree?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm a supporter of the parents having choice, the family having choice, and not pitting one against the other, but really allowing the family to make the best choice for each individual child. And even as an administrator, there were families where one child was in the traditional setting with us, one child was in another setting, and one child was homeschooled. So it really, even within the same family, there were a variety of needs that the students came with, and the
Sure.
parent family had the option to choose whatever fit that particular student.
No, I agree. Haneo, can we hear you now? Let's see. There you go. I think I heard you kind of come in. No, it's going. Let's see. When we did our test, you were working. I can't hear you. Maybe try logging back in. So okay, let's kind of go to the next question. So, how do you guys think this pandemic right now, because this is kind of what this is about, this pandemic, right? So right now, I feel like a lot of children are kind of lost in the shuffle, as we are as well, but the kids are kind of lost. And I really want to tackle how to help them physically, mentally, and emotionally, because I know when it first started, we were making sure they got fed. We started the lunch, so that was kind of like the physical needs, but also when in regards to the mental and emotional. So how do you guys think this pandemic has kind of impacted the educational process?
Well, so I mean, from the educational standpoint, the traditional schools that were running a brick and mortar face-to-face operation have been flipped on their heads. I mean,
right.
In very short order, they had to do an assessment of resources, a quick assessment of opportunities, and redevelop how they were going to educate their students in a sustainable fashion, an adaptable fashion, that they could continue progress. Right, progress forward of learning. So that's the
very quickly, right?
And that's the educational piece. But then the learning piece, I think the learning piece has taken the biggest direct hit because in a face-to-face operation, the teacher is monitoring as that content expert, as that methodological, pedagogical expert. They're monitoring, moment by moment, incremental progress of those students. And that assessment piece is gone. So the gauge, because it's how do you do that? How do you replicate a multi-tiered system of support remotely? How do you replicate assessment remotely? How do you replicate formative assessment remotely? It's very difficult. So that piece, that learning piece, I think we all have to just understand that that's not there anymore. So the expectations of end learning outcomes for the students have to shift this year because the learning piece has really taken a hit, in my opinion.
Yeah. Anybody else, ladies?
So similarly, within a very quick span of time, the whole educational system had to pivot and deliver the services in a different way. So the educational process itself had to be sort of evaluated and figure out the best way to deliver. And there are teachers who I know who have really struggled, not necessarily like they're struggling emotionally, like I'm not able to connect with my students the way that I normally do. I miss my students. I miss my teachers. I miss my friends. I miss that socialization, that structure of school. So while there was the learning component, there's so many other pieces that come together for school, for parents, and for teachers, and for students. So when we think about the family structure, right, many parents they're now working from home, or they're essential, so they're leaving the home and leaving the student to be in charge of their own learning experience, right? That whole dynamic has come into play, and I know parents who are struggling because they're not educators, right? So they're not educators, so they're like, okay, how do I do this? On top of having to manage their work at home or wherever it is that they have to go to. So it's required a tremendous shift, but I believe everybody's doing the best that they can with what they have.
Very, very true. Very true. Thank you guys. Yeah. Wow. And you guys have and I know I sent out your bios earlier, but you guys have such a vast just background in education from all different type of, you guys have worked with all different type of children and all different type of parents and, cultures and just I know because like Gina, I know specifically has dealt with alternative education. So not only are you dealing with the learning process traditionally, so to speak, but you also have to deal with the other stuff that comes with that. I've always said that if the child is not eating at home, if they don't have love at home, how can they be a student? How it's so hard to be a student because they have so many other things that they're dealing with. And now we've added this onto it. So this can get very difficult for some. So Jana, he's having a little bit of trouble with feedback. So this new way right now with our learning process, how do you think that it has kind of impacted the child? Because that's really my main point right now in regards to how we help is the child, not necessarily. I mean, the parents too, of course. You know, I love the parents, but the children are what have my heart. So, how do you think this has really impacted the child? You know, and of course the home teacher, which is now the parents. How do you guys think that has kind of impacted them?
I think there's been a range of impact for students, again, based on the level of need and maturity level age group of the students. So I just spoke to a parent today who has a 10th grader and a 5th grader. The 10th grader is self-sufficient, managing his classes online. The 5th grader, she said, you know, she thinks it's vacation at home, and I'm battling with her constantly, like, let's go get the work done.
Right.
While she herself is managing not only work at home, but work at home for a fairly new position. So it has been a struggle to, one, get structure in the home based, you know, around school and family, and then two, to manage the various needs of the students. I also know an administrator who, you know, they struggled for a few weeks to just get the technology into the hands of the students and then get them access to internet services so that they could then deliver education in an alternative way. So it's been a wide span of you know, a variety of impact for students.
Right, because some areas still don't even have the technology yet. They still don't have computers. So they've been getting, I know some people that I've spoken to, they've gotten packets, you know, of work, but you know, sometimes it's not for the right grade level. Sometimes it's not, you know, so that's been a dynamic part of the interesting part of the dynamic itself. So Gina, what do you think? How do you think it's impacted the child and the new home parent?
Well, I think that I was sharing with you this earlier. So in my household, I'm not over a building anymore, but it was interesting because I am now a faculty and instructor for a classroom full of teachers and administrators working on their administrative degree. So I was able to hear the stories from the field about how not only how these educators were trying to support their students, not just in the academic way, but were exceptionally leaned in on those safety needs, those food needs, those access needs, those supports, because the students that these teachers were worried about on a daily basis when they were face to face are still the students that now it's keeping them up at night because they know that they don't have another out because we're all isolated. So I think that so even for me as an educator, so hearing my stories from my students and then having my husband now home all day working full time. I'm home all day working full time. We have 2 children, one who is 10 and one who is 13. And the 13-year-old has some cognitive impairments. So typically when she's at school, she has a paraprofessional. So so then essentially we're now her paraprofessional and we're educators, and we are still struggling to carve out structure and time to be able to support her, because not because we can't, because both of us could easily support that learning, but we have this prioritized job obligation during the day that you know, we have to then carve out time to do that after we're done working or on the weekends. Thankfully in our district they're creating deadlines like a week out, so they give assignments and they have to be due that Friday, which I love that adaptability and flexibility, because it allows for families like ours to create different time to capture that learning and to support our children. And then it's again that 5th grader. We've got that 5th grader at home that we're trying not to have it be that summer vacation early, that that gets work done in 20 minutes, and I have to go back and check through all of the work before it's uploaded and submitted. So I think it's different family to family. Like I was telling Erin earlier, we're just trying to give each other grace and space, knowing that there's pressures that we have never endeavored before as a family or as individuals. And I think also for the students who go to school for their positives, like their positive relationships, their positive affirmations, their positive spaces, their access to food and support and just being seen, that's gone. And for some of them, that's going to be significantly detrimental. And Dr. Carmen mentioned how, the teachers feel that yearning of those students that they know needed that relationship, and they're missing them. And they're sad that those relationships have been severed without closure, and now are done through a screen if that student gets on. Right, because not all their students are available to come on all the time because of a variable amount of circumstances. So, yes, we are rolling forward, but the implication can't be that we are rolling forward in a high functioning manner. There is significant loss for everyone involved in this process: parents, teachers, students. And we're doing the best we can because we're resilient. But there is loss and mourning moment to moment.
Yes, I agree. Carmen, did you have anything else you wanted to add to that?
No.
Okay. Jana, did you have anything you wanted to add? Just basically talking about how this whole new process has impacted the student and the parent. I mean, you are a homeschool teacher, but still, you still have students that come in that you teach. So how has this impacted some of the teachers that, the homeschool teachers, I should say, the parents that have had to become the teacher now? Have you seen any impact? Uh-oh, did she freeze on me?
No, I'm not. Can you hear me?
We can hear you now, yeah.
Okay, you can hear me. I kind of heard your question. Very bits and pieces of it because it's just the feedback is really crunchy.
Okay.
I really don't know what the question was. I'm trying to. That was my intense face, my intense listening face. Okay. I wasn't frozen.
I've seen that face before. So the question is,
talking to me?
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me clearly now?
No.
Okay, so do you see the question at the bottom there?
Okay. Yeah. I think I kind of heard what you said in reading the question. I would say that I think even for those of us who are homeschoolers and have been homeschoolers, I think is unclear because you've seen a lot of memes going around saying like, "Ha ha, now everybody's a homeschooler," right?
Right.
And I think realistically, we are just as much under stress as other parents because this is not homeschool. Homeschool is not that we stay in our houses all day and we're quarantined. Like if anything, we spend more time outside of our home than we actually do inside of our home. So this is even causing us to have to be very creative. You're talking about like having a full day of learning, like that's stressful for anybody. You like, all right, it's 1:00. I'm ready to go to bed. Y'all taking naps, asking me what we're doing next because the children are like, well, why can't we go to the library? Why can't we go to the park? Why can't we go do our volunteer projects? Why can't we go here? Why can't we go to the museums? Why can't we meet with our playmates? Why can't? And it's like, my answer is like, honey, they got corona over there and we can't go. Like,
right.
So even for us, it is very different. And it is very, impactful. The whole situation. I think it's impacting us just like it's impacting everyone else who is having to adjust to this new path.
Yeah, I really appreciate that. Yeah. I appreciate that perspective because I think that a lot of people do have that perception that because you're a homeschool teacher that life has just been easy for you because this is the same thing, but it's really not because I know for a fact you guys go out probably, I mean, more so out than in, you know, throughout your day. So, yeah, so I appreciate that. I appreciate that perspective for sure. Um, so, oh, thank you, Christina. Christina commented she loves this topic. So she's also an educator and a counselor. So appreciate that. So do you guys, so I want to kind of ask this question as well. Do you guys feel as though this new learning process impacts marginalized communities more differently? Kind of what are some advantages and disadvantages that this has presented? Because I think this is important to talk about as well. And sometimes when we say marginalized, sometimes people just think, you know, African Americans or Hispanics, but marginalized, I mean, it's so much broader than that. You know, people that have a disadvantage and that are considered the have-nots, and they kind of get forgotten sometimes. And I just want to kind of get you guys input in regards to this on how you feel like this new learning process impacts those communities. And do you think it impacts it differently? Do you think it impacts those communities differently than, you know, the non-marginalized? So I just want to get you guys input on that because of your background. You've seen all aspects. So anybody want to kind of tackle that one?
I'll take it from a vantage point from a technology standpoint.
Sure.
So if your students and your children are in a district where there is currently a one-to-one initiative going on, where the students have a computer that they take home daily as practice. The teachers use a Google Classroom already. Students already know how to upload. Teachers are already, everything's done electronically. Those districts were at a higher advantage when the schools were shut down because there wasn't the technological literacy learn that needed to go on. Because the teachers didn't need the professional development on the Google Classroom. The students didn't need the training on the Google Classroom. The parents didn't even need the training. And there didn't need to be distribution of technology because everybody already had it at home. And most of those schools already had a system in place for getting internet hotspots to students. Those students may already had them. So they were just like, okay, we're taking out, I don't want to minimize the work that the teachers did even in those districts to translate curriculum to a remote learning option. But it just kind of took out some of the hurdles in the learning that the schools that maybe didn't have a one-to-one initiative, who hadn't integrated technological use within a daily existence, or maybe in a rural setting where some of their students don't even have access to internet, even if they wanted it, even if they had the financial capacity, there is literally not the capacity. So it really limits the supplemental learning tools that are being used right now by parents and teachers to help extend that. So definitely those rural, some of the schools that may not have that technology integrated, that's very expensive to have a one-to-one initiative in a district and to do focused technology training for teachers. If that wasn't in place, that's a definite disadvantage for some of those students who from marginalized populations who now are lacking that access to extension, to exploration. We see all those virtual learning opportunities come out, but if you don't have technology at home, or the only computer that you do have at home, your parents are working off of, and you have 4 siblings, so you may have it and you may have the knowledge, but then you only have one working device, or your bandwidth is only worth, can only handle one Zoom meeting at a time, and you're then having to prioritize mom or dad's work because that's what's paying the bills. Affects that. Those are all those nuances from the technological lens of how even they may not have been classified marginalized before, but all of a sudden they are because of their bandwidth access, because they no longer have the privilege to access the learning in the way that the school's trying to provide it, which marginalizes them due to this pandemic. So
yes, very true, very true. Yes. Anybody else want to tackle this? Because this really gets me going, because I think that we're missing this sometimes during this, and we all have our own stuff going on during this. We're all trying to navigate through this, but there are a lot of communities that are really suffering right now, and I don't think they're being seen or heard. And I just want to offer some type of light, and kind of in their dimness that they have going on. Anybody else want to kind of speak on this? Let me there you go, Miss Jana.
Okay, can you hear me? Can you guys hear me?
Yes, yes.
Okay. I definitely think that what Dr. Gina said is absolutely 100% spot on. I will also add that the advice that I've given to parents who are trying to set up a learning environment in their home, having been, being someone that does that, my advice really, I'll be honest, has been like, if you can let your kids chill out and not sweat it, don't sweat it. It's too stressful.
Yes.
It really is too stressful. I think for teachers to have to be required to, like Dr. Gina said, some of them who don't come from districts where they were already using this type of technology and haven't been afforded, like, so they not only do they have to deal with their own families and their own children, and they've got to also process through this time. Now you want them to learn this whole new skill set that people take months to learn, and they're supposed to learn it in a matter of 4 days and implement it. How are they supposed to, you know what I mean? It's just too much. It's just too much. I've seen some lives from some young students, not little, like, but teenagers and young adults, and the stress and it's written all over their faces and their voice. And I cried for this one boy.
Yes.
I shared with my husband, and I said, look at this. I said, this really, really, really makes me really sad. And I think that this is, I think when school districts, decided to take this path, I don't think that it was very well thought through.
Right.
I just don't think it was very well thought through.
But they didn't really have a lot of time, right? They didn't really have a lot of time, and that's the thing. It's like, it just kind of happened, right? So, I mean, everybody just kind of had to do the best because nobody planned for a pandemic, right? We didn't plan for this. So there was nothing like in the books that said, in case of a pandemic, this is what you do, right? So everybody we just had to kind of shuffle through, because I know it was so many parents that I spoke to that said, I feel so pressured to keep them busy for 8 hours or for 6 hours. I feel so pressured because this is what they would do in school. And it's like, they're not in school anymore. This is totally different, I mean, and like you said, Dr. Gina, just navigating through having to still work at home, or if you're not working and you're still waiting for unemployment, because people are still waiting for unemployment. So you're stressed about how am I gonna get food on my table, let alone, what's 2 plus 2. I mean, I don't care about that right now, So it's just been, it's been a lot. And I just have been trying to tell people to just chill out, take it easy, get in what you can get in, and wait till the next day, get in some more. I mean, there's really nothing else we can do. I even myself, I remember at the beginning of this, I'm like, okay, today I'm going to clean this closet, and then some days I'm like, I was on the couch for like 6 hours just watching, binge watching, because I just was exhausted of thinking of things to do. You know what I mean? And just everything else. So Dr. Carmen, did you have anything to add to that about this impact on marginalized communities?
I mean, Dr. Gina's assessment was really thorough and covered a lot of points. The technology gap was expanded as a result of the pandemic and the schools closing. I also, when you asked that question, I really thought of, the disproportionality of those who are essential workers who have to leave the home, right?
Yes,
so communities of color are in the essential work positions, so they're leaving the home to go and fulfill, the thankfully the jobs that are keeping the country going at this time, right?
Sure.
But what does that then mean for the students who are at home, left to navigate this learning process on their own? Right. And I've thought a lot about and have really been concerned about even just the learning of the students, like that learning gap expanding between the haves and the have-nots, right? So those who the parents and the students were already on that technology path and didn't have this big learning curve to those who didn't. And now, those can, even though it's not the same level of education necessarily, it definitely looks different and feels different. you have those who are still on that path, and then you have those who almost came to a complete halt, right? And have had a delayed start again to get the education flowing. So
Right.
even this time periods, even if the delivery of the education was the same, you've had an extended time gap from when they were able to start from one area to another. So
Yes.
I just visualize the gap getting larger as a result of the pandemic and the way that education is being delivered, has to be delivered right now.
Yes, yes, that's so true, so true. It's just so many different parts to this that we are all just trying to navigate through. And like I believe it was you, Dr. Gina, to say, we have to give each other grace because right now, I mean, this is just so new, And I just think about like new mothers, new parents. When something's new to you, is foreign to you, you have no idea. Or if you move to a new country, you can't be mad at yourself for not knowing the directions or being able to read the sign or knowing how to change a diaper. You know what I'm saying? We have to just kind of be patient with each other. So I want to ask you guys too, how do you guys foresee this new way of learning? So, some people are saying it'll never go back to normal. Some people are saying they hope it doesn't go back to normal, so people are having different thought process on that. How do you guys foresee this new way? Because right now school is going to be out here shortly for this year, but next school year will be starting in August, September. And they've kind of thrown out different ideas of what that's going to look like. What do you guys see or foresee in that or think about it?
I don't know what it will look like.
Mm-hmm.
During this pandemic, it has been an opportunity for people to sit back, reflect, and restart if necessary.
Yes.
And that restart in the educational system, like right now, there's an opportunity to reset in a different way. Like, let's learn from this and adjust accordingly. Like, what are things that can be done that we traditionally have said, oh no, we can't, it's never been done that way, right? What are those conversations that we were afraid to have that has now, because of the pandemic, has forced us into the way it's never been done before? So I don't know what it will look like, but I do hope that every facet of the educational community takes the time to say, okay, what have we learned and how can we make the delivery of services better and more comprehensive for everybody involved?
Yes, yes. So Jana, welcome back. The question right now is just kind of how do you foresee the new way of learning to be? Because things have changed, of course. So I just want you guys input, on what do you see? Do you think it should go back to normal? Do you think it will ever go back to normal? What do you guys think? Dr. Gina?
So my passion work in education has always been working for educators to understand the importance of relationships. And so my hope and prayer every night is that, because I think as a collective, and especially in school systems, they are seeing children and their students as the individuals they have always been, as opposed to a subgroup or a group of kids or populations, that they get lost, their individualism gets lost. My hope is that these students will stay individualized, and the work, because I hear so often the teachers doing extra leaned in work to keep connected, to keep relationships going, to do those checks, that practice that they're building now remotely will remain when they return to the classroom.
Yes.
Because over the years, educational legislation has stripped the humanity from public education spaces. We have to check it at the door and become content providers. No, we're teachers, and teaching is a human service field. Yes. And I think this has caused us to have to return to the human first and then get the education. And I hope to gosh that it stays. I pray every night that teachers see how good it feels to be connected to their students in a deep way that maybe they weren't able to for whatever reason.
Right.
in their classroom, whether it was personal, whether it was from, professional, whether it was from pressures, right, of the assessment system or whatever. I hope that their intentionality around relationship building and connection and the individualization of students' needs stays and remains as a part of our practice when we return to our buildings, because it always was essential. This just kind of put a magnifying glass on it, because we were no longer in physical proximity.
Right.
But it always was needed, and just as much as it's needed now. So that's what I hope remains. And like Dr. Carmen said, I completely agree. Smart districts will look at what was left behind that shouldn't come back. And they will look at what they've brought in that has been working well and say, this is never going away again. So even though it was something we couldn't even conceptualize. So they'll be reflective, they'll be responsive, they'll remain adaptable, and they'll build that belief that they can make some changes and they don't have to get stuck in rigidity of a system. So I completely agree with Dr. Carmen on that piece, that, the districts that are reflective will be the ones who fare best when we return and create whatever the new normal is going to be.
So what do you guys think that, well, first of all, thank you both for your points, because they were spot on. It really resonated with me, because that's been really heavy on my mind. Even though I don't have children in, high school, elementary, I have children in college. And this has been really interesting for them, because I have one that's a freshman. So this was his first year. He just kind of gotten acclimated, getting his groove, and then bam, comes a pandemic. And it's like, oh, wow, so anyway, I really appreciate both of your perspectives. But do you guys think that how do you think it's going to look in regards to the school building? I know we say when we go back to, do you think how do these things going to look different? Should it look different? I'm just curious what you guys kind of have thought about that.
I was sitting with one of my students the other day in a Zoom call, and he's a high school principal, pretty large high school, class A. Okay. And we were curious to say how because the schools have started planning for fall. Okay. It's just that time of the year, that it's that busy time of the year where we're closing it out and we're planning it. That hasn't changed. We're just all doing it on Zoom calls. They're all doing it on Zoom calls. And he said, well, right now we're trying to figure out how to funnel 300 kids through 3 different lunch periods.
Yeah.
How do you do that in a pandemic that doesn't have a vaccine and doesn't have a treatment? How do you put 42 kids in a classroom? That may be a co-taught class in a larger room. How do you slam 300 kids in a hallway during a 5-minute passing time, so bodies are literally inches away from each other?
Yeah.
And I said, yeah, exactly. That's what I was asking. And he was like, we have no idea. Because the buildings aren't structured for a lower capacity.
Right.
They're just not. So, but this, I love teachers. I love educational leaders, and they're some of the most innovative and adaptable people in critical times. They are cool, calm, and collected. So I have no doubt that there is going to be some high level innovation, whether it be with scheduling, it's coming, and it's going to be wow, because there are just a lot of smart people working at it, because they're being driven by keeping kids safe, and they have deep love for the kids in their buildings, and so they're going to figure it out, because not on their watch will their kids get sick. They would never bring them to an unhealthy space. So I have that kind of confidence in the leaders out there. But I mean, I could not even speculate how.
Right. Dr. Carmen?
So I think there's 2 different layers of opportunity here. One is the potential extension of the pandemic and what that looks like in the fall. Hence what Dr. Gina was talking about with scheduling. I was a high school scheduler. I know the huge puzzle that is required just to get common planning time for teachers, let alone scheduling for 1,200 kids in a building and 120 teachers, right? And what guidelines are going to come if they say, okay, you can go back to school, but it has to be under these guidelines. and the schedules are already set, like there's going to have to be a huge, it's like plan A, B, C, D, E. If this is this, then we do this. Like it's going to have to be so many contingency plans in place just to keep the students and the staff safe. So that's
Right.
one layer.
Right.
The other layer of opportunity is just the delivery of education and the things that have been learned from this time. What students have fared best from the virtual learning space? What students have fared best from this alternative learning space that
Right.
was not intended, right? We were thrown into this, right? So
Yes.
and you talk about the collegiate level. I have a daughter who was in her freshman year, and we got a call and was like, you got to come get them. Like we literally
Yes.
had like the day
Yes.
we had to go get her, pack her up, and bring her home. Right?
Yes. Yes.
So that was her college experience. And then I'm also teaching, like I'm supervising student teachers. So I saw the transition of those who are learning to be teachers. I'm going to the classroom and observing them, and now I'm not. Right. So things I did was I required them to produce and deliver an online learning experience, like present a lesson to your peers as if they are students, right? Because if this were to ever, like, this is what teachers are doing.
Right.
Teachers have to shift from the person-to-person delivery to now virtual learning. So they have to do it. This is part of your learning experience. It wasn't part of the curriculum, but now it is.
Right. No, this is you guys have some great insight, and I appreciate that, Hannah L. So basically, I want to know for you, do you foresee things kind of going back to normal? Do you think they should go back to normal? What do you think?
I certainly think for us come the fall that we will get back to our normal routine. Our space is so small that we're always under the people limit. I don't know how that helps, but but however, what I do think or what I have experienced is that this has allowed, because we've been forced to go online. I've been asking people, people have been asking me for many years now, am I going to teach online? Am I going to offer classes online? And I was like, heck no, not ever, not in any circumstances, never ever. So when this all came about, it was where the rubber met the road, and I said, are we going to do this? And so I too had to learn how to Zoom. I'm not tech savvy, and I had to regroup the few students that we meet with daily. But it's been a blessing to so many other families who's in there like, oh my God, now you're online. And so now I've got students from the four corners of the country, and their parents are asking me, okay, so are you still going to be doing this online next year? Because I want my kids to forever and ever, as long as they're, in that school age, I want them learning with you, especially the Black history that we teach and that we expose them to. So for us, it's opening up doors. And it's creating, it's a work, honey. It's a work. That's However, it's opening up doors, and it is allowing people to take advantage of what we do, even though they live. I have students in Memphis, have students in Houston, and I'm in Cincinnati. So I have students, and many states away, and so forth and so on, and they're taking advantage, and others that also want to take advantage. So we're thankful for that. I'm actually thankful, even in all the chaos. I'm very thankful still for where this has opened the doors that it's open. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I love all the viewpoints and the perspectives. So I just have a question now. So this is the part that really was kind of near to my heart, and really what made me think of even doing this right now. How do you think we can nurture the whole child right now, in regards to physically, emotionally, mentally? Like how can we help them? Because I thought about it, and it really weighed on me, because I thought about, okay, these children, although we don't see this sometimes, they really appreciated being away from us sometimes. They appreciate their time with their friends, and I know even when I worked in the school system, There were some children that I was the only person that told them, "How are you today?" or "Wow, you look so pretty," or "Did you eat today?" And sometimes they don't have that at home right now, so they are kind of in a different space. And I just wanted to get you guys just thought on how can we help them? Because as I stated before, we did the whole, making sure they had lunch. I know that was like the first thing because people were so concerned, as was I, how are these children going to eat? Because some kids, I know for a fact, some of them only ate when they came to school, and they would take extra sometimes home to be able to have food, or they didn't know if they were going to eat or not for that day. So we kind of help with that part. But I kind of want to talk about how do we help them in regards to the emotional and mental aspect of it, because they didn't get any closure on this. They didn't get to say bye to friends. You have seniors who didn't get to, complete that part of it that they've been waiting. I mean, that's the whole point of all of that, right? Is to have the big walk and everybody celebrate you. And they didn't have that. And I know we've kind of did some different things for some students, in their driveways and things like that. But it's not the same, as they watch their older brother or their friend do the year before or years before. So I want to know what you guys think we can do to kind of nurture them, the whole child, not just the physical, but the whole child. So anybody that wants to kind of tackle that, please do.
Well, I'm going to say one quick thing is that we need to make sure we're taking care of ourselves. Yes. Because we are the foundation of these babies at this point in time. Like, we're literally their everything. Like, we always conceptually have been their everything, but right now the adults in the homes are literally their everything. Yes. So if you're letting this pandemic erode your mental health and mental well-being and sensibility of to stay in that logic brain.
Yes.
When we go into the emotional brain and kind of lose our logic and lose our positive voices in our head telling us that we're going to be okay, then they lose that voice as well. So that's where then we need to become a village of adults that's reaching out to each other. And when we check in on our girls or our friends, and we're like, "How are you doing?" And they're like, "I'm fine." And we're like, no, really.
How are you really?
Like, I'm in a wreck. And we sit in transparency and we sit in the suck with each other.
Yes.
So that we can then move forward and be there for our children, because we're all they have. So for me, that has to be the first thing we do is take care of ourselves and take care of each other when we're able to make sure that we can guide our children through this pandemic of loss. Because it's just what it is. There's no way to, no matter how privileged your pandemic is, there's still loss all around. Like, and the losses go from lifestyle to life.
Yes.
But in between there, it's all loss. Like, it's all the big L, depending on where you're at in your scope of life, and honoring that child's loss by being strong yourself is what's going to help them the most. So I'll speak about it from that big picture context, and then hand off to my colleagues on the line.
Yes, no, I agree with you wholeheartedly. Anybody else? Because I have so much to say about it, but I brought you guys on to talk. So you guys tell me what else you guys think, because that's so true.
I think no matter what aspect of it, whether it's the mind, body, or spirit, I think it can be covered. I don't want to trivialize it, but I want to broaden it, the concept of how do we nurture the whole child. And I think we can do it in 3 ways. We can check in, we can acknowledge, and we can connect, right? So whether it is really someone, and so checking in with the child on any of those needs, acknowledging whatever it is, whatever information or experience you are having with that student, and then connecting or guiding with that student personally first, and then to the resource that is needed. So that, and it cuts across any role. So that can be a parent to a student, that can be a teacher to a parent, that can be teachers to teachers. Like, those 3 things can be delivered from any person in the school community
Sure.
and for any need. So we're talking check in, acknowledge, and connect or guide to whatever the need is.
Yes. Hannah L., do you have anything to add to that? Please do. We can't hear you. Let's see, try now. No. So I'm going to just say this just so people know you just moved, so you're getting everything together, so that's okay. But I appreciate you for being here, because I'm going to have you back too, because I really want to get your take on things, because you come from a totally different perspective. So I really want to make sure that we get that. I do want to ask you guys, so because this is what a lot of people have been asking, and again, thank you for that part you just gave to us, because it's so true in regards to what both of you all had to say, how we can kind of just be present even within ourselves and know, okay, wait a minute, today I'm just not mentally there to help them educationally today. And it's okay to say that. So instead of trying to force our way through it, let's go to the park. Let's run around outside. Let's paint. Let's do something else. And even if it's a moment of you sitting down reading a book, or talking to a girlfriend, or taking a mindfulness class or yoga class online, whatever you need to do as a parent, as a guardian, get yourself together, because that's okay. It's okay to say, I need help. I'm not doing well through this. That's one thing I've been really like, hey, today is not the day. I'm not teaching anybody, but it's just some days where it's like, I kind of want to be free. Anybody that knows me knows I like to be free, and feeling like I'm not, I'm like, okay, I'm okay with this, but some days are challenging. So, sure. So Christina asked, can you put her in touch with the school counselor? Yes, that's something that we can look into as well. Okay. So I want to ask you guys this, because our time is wrapping up. This is such a great conversation. We could literally talk about this all day. But I really want to ask you guys, because a lot of people have asked the question, so I want to ask it as well. How can we help the village, right? How can we help as a community? And I know, Dr. Carmen, you really touched on that in regards to checking in. But what else can we do? Like, I guess for me, even in way of offering supplies, offering food, offering, I don't know. I mean, right now we can't really, some communities are doing it, some aren't, but we really aren't supposed to be kind of interacting. So how can we remotely offer ourselves, offer our services, or just help during this time? What do you guys think that the village, because it always comes back to the village. We're all individuals, but none of us can do all of this by ourselves. We need each other. So when we realize that we do need each other to kind of get through not just this, but life. We need each other to get through life. So once we realize that, I think we'll come a lot further. But what do you guys think we can do as the village, as a community, to help during this time?
First of all, Erin, I want to thank you for even creating this space and putting the conversation on the table. Like, this is something that can help, that is helping parents and those involved in the educational community. So that's one thing, right? Creating space for conversations to be had, for problems to be solved, for resources to be shared. I think those are important. Let's have the conversation. Let's share the resources. Let's highlight where people can go to get food. Let's highlight an educational expert who can, point people in the right direction for XYZ. So I think creating space and sharing resources is a huge thing. And I thank you for doing it.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I appreciate you for saying that, because I think that is important. I think having that conversation is important. We have to, because I think a lot of people are suffering in silence, right? They're kind of at home. crying, confused. What do I do next? How do I navigate through this? I really don't know, but I don't want to look weak, right? Some parents are think they'll be judged, or what do you mean you don't know how to teach your own kids? Well, I'm not a teacher, so I may not know how to navigate through this part of it, through algebra, so anyway, I appreciate that, Dr. Carmen, for you saying that. Dr. Gina, what do you feel in regards to that?
I was going to say that, what Dr. Carmen said, yes, and more, yes. Like, share resources, be available as you can be, connect and guide to resources. But again, the other piece for me is we're all kind of living on social media, because that's kind of where we're getting our connection and our interaction. And my plea is, be authentic on there. Like, this is not the time to, create a falsehood, because then it does push people into that silence that you talked about, Erin, that when we think everybody else around us is doing so much better than us, we internalize that shame, and that there's no time or room for shame in a pandemic, as far as I'm concerned. On the first day of remote learning in my town, my son started the metric system, and guess what? We didn't have anywhere in the house a flipping ruler. I couldn't find, remember, and I said, I'm doing it, and I just put it on my Facebook status, like, somebody bring me a ruler. I can't do this 5th grade math without a ruler. And I was just going to put it out there. Like, I don't care what people think about me not having a ruler, because what I know is I probably have a box of like 100 rulers somewhere in a tub, organized and buried, but in that moment that I needed it, it wasn't there. And I had so many friends come through for me and then email me too, well, I'll give you a ruler, but do you have a this? And I'm like, I absolutely have a that, and bring me your ruler. And then we're all in this together. So the transparency and the authenticity that we bring to our spaces of social interaction will allow us to then be the village that collaborates on educating and growing our children the way we want to. Because we're back to neighboring, right? Then we're back to connection. And so that's kind of like my like, I will not put things out on my social media that will make people judge themselves based on my what I'm putting out there. So and that's been my checkpoint, right?
Yes.
And so I just really, and I want that authenticity and that transparency as well, because then I know where my people be. Like, where are all the people that are out here struggling too, and are okay with that, and are going to honor, where we're at in the struggle, and we can struggle together, arm in arm, figuratively, obviously, because like literally we can't arm to arm struggle anymore, right? How about fingertip to fingertip, right, with a couple inches of air? But so that's kind of my plea for all of us right now. Now is not the time for airs. Now is the time for authenticity and transparency for each other.
Yeah, and empathy and just love.
And self-compassion for yourself. Just lots and lots of compassion.
And it's okay to not be okay. We have to get past this, how you said, put on all these airs. It's like, stuff is happening, man. I mean, it's just what it is, you know what I mean? And it's okay for us to say, wait a minute, this is nuts. I mean, I myself, when it first happened, I'm like washing stuff, and, then I'm like touching the sanitizer. I said, do I have to wash? Like, what's happening? This mental craziness, and it's a lot. And then you want me to actually work, and you want me to actually function every day, and it's just a lot. So our time is wrapping up. I'm sorry, Dr. Carmen, please finish your thought.
I want to just put in perspective, as adults, we are struggling with all of that. So remembering that our children are little people, and their minds and emotional maturity has not even developed to the level that we have, and we're still struggling. Like, keep in mind that our children are little people, and they're struggling with this in their own way. So just, if they need to chill out for a minute, let them chill out.
and they're little people that don't have a voice right now. Like that's the part. Like we can vent, we can cuss, we can say, we can throw stuff. You know what I mean? We can do that. And, but sometimes they feel like, can I say that? And they also, they're kind of mourning things, grieving things, and they're not able to really express that all the time. And we're not always connecting with them to say, how are you doing today? I think I'm driving my one son nuts because I'm like, are you okay today? Is there, because I just want to make sure they're in a good space, because this is different. So anyway, I really appreciate you guys for coming on today. This has been really good. I really enjoyed the conversation. And I want to have Sister Hanael back on as well, because she has so much that she can offer to the conversation. So again, I just thank all the viewers, everyone that kind of chimed in and gave their input. And I really just want to put it out into the atmosphere that I really just pray that this touches somebody and kind of resonates with someone. They can use this information, to help them. And just the hearing of it's okay to not be okay. I really appreciate that, because I think in all of this is what we're kind of telling them. It's okay. Just chill out, breathe a little bit, and, we're just going to kind of flow through this together. So thank you so much, ladies. I appreciate you guys. I don't have any clever music to play at the end. So we're just kind of, So, just trying to navigate this being the first show. I think it went really great. I'm very proud of it. I'm proud of the conversation. And I'm trying not to wipe you try not to wipe eyes and do it. It's just too much. It's just too much. So again, thank you guys so much for your input. I truly appreciate it. And I just wish you guys a great evening and a blessed night. Okay. Bye, everybody. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.